Hey, how's it going, everybody? How we doing? Yeah. So we're gonna have a little podcast, a roundtable with some comic book creators. It's gonna be really fun. These guys have drawn Spider-Man, Green Lantern, all sorts of great creators. Are you guys ready for it? All right. Yeah. Guys, I'm going to bring out your guest. We're going to do a roundtable discussion, just talking about all sorts of random fun things, and we're going to keep this breezy and light. Coming up first, please give it up for Brad Walker, everybody. Yeah. Okay, guys. Coming up next, give it up for Kaare Andrews. Yeah. Let's try to be the audience this show needs and not the one it deserves, okay? All right. Coming out last, please give it up for Milgrom, everybody. Yeah. How's it going, guys?
It's going good. It's going good. Hey, is anyone here from Miami? Yeah.
I literally thought you were just going to end with, is anyone here? How's it going, guys?
I don't think mine's not working.
Uh-oh.
Is this working? No. Hello? Anything?
Oh, yes.
No, it is.
Anything? Yeah. Anything?
Oh,
They're coming out.
And, guys, we have a fourth guest, everybody. Sorry about this. Do we have a chair and sound and everything?
Testing.
Okay.
Me.
Be Taimak from The Last Dragon.
Sure. What's that?
From Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right, great.
Hey.
All right, guys, give it up for Taimak, everybody. Yeah. How's it going, man? Yeah. I'm an ugly Jew made of rocks, so this could be a poker table right now. Let's have fun. How's it going, Taimak? Yep.
I don't think mine's not doing much either. That's barely a little.
You guys can hear me? You can? No. I can't hear me.
Luckily, they're all in the front row.
Yeah.
Nothing there.
Use the power of the glow. Just use the power of the glow.
Now this one's off.
Everybody's leaving.
And also this one.
No, I think this is
I've got the powerful mic.
Yeah. We'll just all talk over your shoulder.
Okay.
If you want, if that one's working, he can give it,
Yeah, that works. All right, guys. So let's start with you, Brad. I read your Facebook. It took you forever to get here.
Oh, right. Yeah, I was traveling for an entire day to get 3 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
3-hour flight took me 19 hours.
When were you supposed to fly out?
The first flight I tried to get on was like a 6 a.m. yesterday that would have gotten me here at 8:30, and that didn't happen. The 7-something didn't happen. It was a whole.
And you stayed for 19 hours.
This is a podcast all in itself.
Yeah.
If you want the
Well, that's why I'm
traveling
starting
perils
with
of
it, yeah.
Brad Walker, yeah.
Well, was this the weather? Is that what happened?
There was some weather involved. That was a problem.
Was it as fun as the movie The Terminal? Or does that movie glamorize being stuck in an airport for years?
There were fewer stereotypes involved, marginally, but
Well, that's what you get when Spielberg doesn't direct it, I guess.
it was about as fun as a Spielberg movie.
Taimak,
About as long.
how you having fun? You having fun at this con?
Miami. Yeah. I love hot weather and humidity and beautiful women. That's not why I'm here, though.
I love this. This is 3 guys who draw comic books and a guy with a body who looks like he beat up kids who read them. This is
He should be in the comic books.
yeah, 50. Do you know of Iron Fist at all? Do you know the comic character? Well, he's working on Iron Fist right now.
That's right. Marvel's kung fu superhero, Iron Fist.
Woo!
The living weapon. The immortal weapon.
You getting all the trademarks in there?
The various
With
weapons.
the fist of iron, I suppose. So.
Yes, exactly.
They always
What
fit
did
that
Storm
in there
say?
with a fist unto iron.
Yeah.
He's always going around fisting people. It's really rude.
That woman needs a mic. Okay.
He's a pacifist?
Yeah.
He's a
Do
pacifist?
we have an Iron Fist conspiracy theorist in the room?
Uh-oh.
Iron Fist was an inside job. Luke Cage did all the work.
She came to yell at Kaare. She came to yell at you.
Is that Black Cat or Storm or?
No,
Okay.
Look like
She-
Black Cat.
She doesn't care.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, neither.
Oh, wow.
She's some sort of a mystical thingy.
Dancing for me earlier on over there.
You know what's great about having a comic book convention in Florida? If you don't get what the costume is, you just assume it's Florida being Florida. You know? Okay.
There we go.
She's a ghost.
All right.
Where you from? Where you from?
She's a heckler.
Chicago.
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 That's how I survive the mean streets with
pronounced
my
it wrong.
magic powers. So what's it like working on Iron Fist?
It's fun. He has literally the darkest origin of any superhero created, I believe.
I think he has the greatest origin of any superhero. He literally, Iron Fist, the way that he got his superpowers, he had to fight a dragon and rip its heart out.
No. You got to back up.
Okay.
He was 9 years old, trekking through the Himalayas with his father, his mother, and his father's business partner, and no one else.
As all young children do.
Until his business partner threw his father off a cliff, basically, and then tried to get with the mother. And when
A
the mother,
fiscal cliff,
when
yeah.
the mother refuted his advances, he left them to die in the Himalayas, where they were tracked down by wolves. And she threw herself into the pack of wolves and was ripped apart alive to spare her son, who would just so he could run across this bridge, taken in by these monks, and then trains for 10 years not to become a better person, not to save the world, not to heal the planet. 10 years to go back and kill the motherfucker. And then at the last minute, the monks are like, listen, give up your quest for vengeance, stay with us, become a literal immortal, and, become enlightened. And he's like, I'm going back to kill that motherfucker. And he goes back to kill him, only to find that he's a paraplegic who's been waiting to die at his hands.
Ah.
That's the darkest superhero origin I've ever heard.
And he's not doing anything about the wolves.
Yeah.
the wolves.
What if it,
He let
turned out
that go.
what if it turned out that that's also how Rob Ford became mayor of Toronto? And then I wrestled this dragon, which I call my cocaine addiction, and I survived. Because that's the whole thing in heroin, it's chasing the dragon, and he literally did.
In Kunlun, he wrestled the dragon, and then he plunged his fists into the dragon's molten heart.
Yeah. Iron Fist, arm of terry cloth.
Yeah, that reminds me of Masoyama. You know Masoyama, right?
No.
Oh my God.
What's
He's one of the fathers of karate. He was actually Korean, but lived in Japan.
Uh-huh.
And he killed a bull with his chop.
Ouch.
How many?
And then they made chops out of the bull, so it worked out.
I feel like I'm going to want evidence on that.
Kyokushinkai originates like Kyokushinkai karate.
Yeah.
They write a lot of books. They don't know martial arts. Though.
I am a half orange belt from my youth
There you go.
in karate.
How many?
Half
how
orange,
many
half
black
grape.
belts do you
What was
have?
it? What was the other half?
Taekwondo, karate. I did Shaolin for a year and a half with a monk. I was a kickboxing champion in 1984. And now I'm studying BJJ with the world champion named Marcelo Garcia. He's
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Are you watching the fights tomorrow night?
You know, I'll be yeah,
Which fights?
pretty late.
UFC. Chris
It's a big,
Chris
actually,
Weidman.
It's going to be a good competition.
He's facing the dragon, Lyoto Machida.
Yeah.
Rowdy Ronda Rousey is also
Oh, yeah,
defending
she's
her belt.
great. She's great, yeah.
That's the only thing.
Is it that hard to avoid an armbar, really? Is it that hard?
Apparently.
Well, her
I
mother was
guess.
a massive armbar, so she.
What's that?
Her mother was a master of arm bars in judo.
Yeah, no, I know. She was an Olympian, wasn't she?
Right.
Yeah.
So was her daughter.
Just that name, Ronda Rousey,
Yeah.
is
Oh,
like
yeah.
that sounds
Yeah.
like a 1940s.
She was destined for fame or comic book appearances.
It
or
sounds like
something.
one of Spider-Man's girlfriends.
Yeah. Well, it's the alliteration, you know.
I got to get to the sock hop with
Oh, she's-
Ronda Rousey,
That
or
was
Flash
maybe-
is going to call me a meathead.
I feel like that was maybe
She's
Marvel
a
team up.
badass, though.
Lower tier.
That's one contribution I like to put back into martial arts once I get my film going again is the balance of what the martial arts is all about vis-a-vis just all the violence. Like They had Raid Redemption, which was a fun movie. I don't know if any of you
Those
saw
are
it.
incredible. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
another one too.
But
Never
they
saw it.
So glorify violence that they have no real story. It's just like, let's kill, let's see if we can scrape this guy's face on cement and chop it.
But I heard
Ouch.
Raid 2 actually has more of a story. The first Raid,
But the violence
Did you see Raid 2? It's
not yet.
Raid 2, one of
Raid?
the Raid. Yeah. The Raid 2, yeah.
martial arts movie film.
Yeah. The amazing thing about the Raid,
Did very well in America.
the first
Yeah.
Raid was the budget was less than $1 million,
Yeah.
but they shot for 56 days, every day at least 16 hours because there's no unions there. They could
Right.
just work their crew to death, and
Yeah.
it's an amazing movie for that low budget.
That's
amazing.
Did you see the new Judge Dredd movie?
No, haven't yet. No.
Because that's very similar. They
It's
basically
basically the Raid.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think someone stole someone's idea,
yeah, or borrowed. Yeah.
borrowed,
They
stole.
might be here. You never
Maybe.
know.
Who knows? I don't know how it happened. Though.
Which one are you saying?
No, I think the last martial arts movie I saw was Kung Fu Hustle, which I loved.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
they've been talking about a sequel for years, and the guy's been busy doing other stuff, I guess.
Let me ask you a question. Because
Yeah.
from the outside looking in, I'm 50. I've been in martial arts fans.
Wait. How old are you?
I'm 50.
Taimak don't crack. I mean, look, he looks
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah.
I'll have what he's having.
Yeah.
I've been so as a
Chicago.
It's like
Chicago
if The
likes that.
Rock
Yeah.
naturally worked out and earned his muscles.
If I've been a fan of martial arts since, I started when I was 6, but I really became a fan of it after Bruce Lee when I was around 10.
Yeah, sure.
So for 40 years, I've been looking at all these films and the different eras. Like in my era, after Bruce Lee passed, Chuck Norris came about, and
Yeah.
then the Shaw brothers were a big part of martial arts filmmaking. When you went to
Oh, yeah, Run Shaw?
they
Yeah.
had the weekend kung fu films on TV. So that
Is that like the
that
Wu-Tang
left-
Clan and all that
that
stuff?
left
Yeah.
in the mid '90s, and then they had Van Damme and Seagal came.
Right.
And since then, it's all been about UFC, and then like we just said, Raid. And it's for me, I don't see any quality of martial arts other than just killing. We had Kung Fu in this series back in the '70s.
Oh, sure.
Middle of the '80s.
Well, yeah, and
But they
Marvel
don't have it anymore. That's
Marvel
what
did
I-
a comic book that was inspired by it called Master of Kung Fu.
Right,
So.
right. So I'm just the question to you guys is, I know you're not really following martial arts like I am.
No.
I don't think you are. But from the outside in, do you see a little bit of that going on? That there's not any more of that.
Well, I
spiritual side?
can answer because I am a martial arts fan all my life. I've studied very little, but a little bit of karate, a little bit of taekwondo, a little bit of pancration, very little. But just I'm more of a fan. I've
Right.
watched all those movies from Bruce Lee to Van Damme to Jackie Chan to
Right.
Tony Jaa to Scott Adkins, whoever. Right? I love all that stuff, and I do see more of a shift away from the martial arts. But even the Raid, the movie that those filmmakers made before the Raid, Menratu, I think was more of a classical, like a very
Right, but they've been promoting Raid. They haven't
no,
been promoting
but the Raid it didn't do well, and then they were like, all right, let's make some money. And then they're
Because,
like,
well,
So you think that the Raid movies are too violent?
oh, way too well. It's not just if you isolate just the Raid. You just look at the whole.
See, I see that across the board with I mean, we work in comics and stuff, and there's no heart left in comics.
Yeah.
Everything is just sort of like anger and just sort of like a visceral rage catharsis. Everything is just sort of.
Look at UFC. Look at UFC.
Well, Al,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
started,
I never hurt anybody.
Yeah.
I-
But you've been doing comic books a long time,
Yeah.
and
That's
there clearly was that grim and gritty shift that
yeah,
happened
the
between
Frank Miller shift, I think.
yeah.
You
Dark
know, although
Knight Returns.
Claremont to a certain extent, yeah, a lot of the kind of fun went out of it. But I mean, that's typical. If somebody does something, he was really good at it, and somebody does something really well, then you get, a million guys trying to imitate him, and then it influences a whole generation who come in being, way too serious about this stuff.
But they get the wrong parts of it. They all
Sometimes,
they get
yeah.
is like blood and gore and violence, and they don't get any of like the, Frank Miller stuff. There's a lot of like political
Yeah.
commentary and allegory. The pacing and the way that he would lay out a story was really brilliant, and
Yeah.
people took less of that and more of just, I think Batman should beat people to death more.
Yeah, right. Well, that's what always happens. You know, you pick up on some of the superficial stuff, and you think that's what made it good, and that's usually not the case.
You know, the raid, there's excitement and there's charm in there, but
There's also a woman who is deaf and has hammers and hits people in the face with the hammers. And when she's bored of that, she puts the hammers in their
I
mouths.
haven't seen this movie yet.
There's
The Raid 2. The Raid
Spoiler
2.
alert! It's amazing. It's
I like that she got bored of hitting people in the face with hammers.
yeah.
She hit so,
So
many
she
people in the
started
face with a
hitting them
hammer.
in
No,
She's
oh
like-
no, that gets old real fast.
Yeah.
But
I've
her-
done that, and
Now her boyfriend is a
You
guy
swore
with
you'd
an
never hurt
aluminum
anybody.
baseball bat who hits people in the face
using
with the
very
aluminum
soft
baseball.
hammers, very soft
and
hammers.
then the guy,
It is the greatest thing ever.
and the son, and he loses it on his father. He's just so upset at his father because father's losing that killer instinct, so he kills his father. You know?
Now, is it now the part of you that is a martial artist that that this is an art, that this is a discipline? Is that part of you that believes that we shouldn't be portraying those skills to show that they can kill people?
You can do whatever you want. I just want to balance.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I mean, I
it's like I'm sorry.
no, I was going to say I know very little about martial arts, but I mean that is sort of the point, isn't it? Is
Yeah,
balance.
the point of the martial arts is really creating leaders. You know, that have the courage to do what a normal layman wouldn't do. You know, the sensei teaches a student to take risks and give your body up and train hard, give your body up for situations. Like Sonny Chiba's movie, there was this film, I forget, it was one of the Street Fighters, I believe.
Yeah.
And his father, his master, when he was young, he put a sword there to make his son do a flip over the live sword. You know, all these things. Then he blindfolded him. So it was all, do the same thing. You've been doing this. What are you afraid with? You don't need your eyes, go with your heart. So it's all about that, you know, and you can apply those same things to certain situations that come up in life. So that's
Yeah.
what martial
Use
arts
the
does.
force, Luke.
You know, it's all, you know.
Yeah, well, that was a martial arts
Yeah, it was a
inspired.
martial arts.
Yeah.
I remember, like
That's
playing Mortal Kombat as a kid, and I can now say, oh, but the fighting mechanics were great and all. It was literally I played it because you could rip someone's spine off. And was that not one of the greatest moments?
I just remember those conversations where somebody would try to defend sort of the violence of Mortal Kombat, and you're like, "Come on, buddy, just say it. Say what I know you want to say."
Yeah.
Plus, it's pretty badass when you shoot that guy in the face with that grappling hook or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
I remember because one week I would be at my mom's, and the other week I'd be at my dad's, and my mom had Super Nintendo, and that was the sanitized Mortal Kombat where they have sweat instead of blood.
Oh, right.
And Sub-Zero just freezes you and you shatter, but then the Genesis one has the cheat code where you could rip the spine out and rip the heart out, and that would be the one with my dad, and that defines the way I was grown up.
I've got two sons, and they like playing those Mortal Kombat games. And my wife said, and she heard the publicity. Oh, it's bad. They're ripping spines. And she said, Alan, you got to talk to the boys. They're playing these games, and there's all, And I went in and I watched it, and I said, okay, boys, don't rip each other's spines out, okay? Just leave them intact. I said, play the video game. It's not real.
Please
And
don't do that
They were
move.
fine. They were fine
The
with
reason
that.
why I alluded to that earlier, because you look at the big picture, and the big picture is he's got these kids murdering kids every
But they
week.
never rip each other's spines out. That would be amazing.
You get my, yeah, you're right, But you get my point. That's one of the reasons why I want to see the violence.
I can see that, yeah.
You know what I mean? That's why I want to see more of the real martial arts films that showed what this was all about. Because every time I turn the TV on, I'm seeing some kid go out there in a school and try and shoot and accomplish shooting people. So it's like, they follow these movies.
But now, as a Canadian, as maybe the only Canadian here, may I suggest that the amount of gun violence in America has something to do with the amount of guns in America?
Let's
Because we
get
have the
real.
same movies in Canada.
Let's get real.
but we don't.
Also the Canadian mentality.
I love that we're having this conversation in a convention that has tons of guys in Punisher shirts.
Well, I was going to say, there's like
We're gonna
six.
get charged by all the Deadpools right now.
I'm looking at the sun.
I think in your country they put something in the back.
I think the girl from Chicago is armed right now.
that just mellows you out. I don't know what it is. You're very nice. You're very polite. It's a wonderful country.
Yeah. It would be Canada would have the politest shootings. I'm sorry I shot you there.
Exactly.
I apologize.
Exactly.
Let me clean that up for you.
But the funny about Canada is we're also a very big MMA country, bigger than the States.
George
Bigger-
St.
big
Pierre.
about what?
MMA, like UFC, mixed martial arts.
Oh, yeah.
Like we just have a
Yeah,
big
and,
fan base in
and,
Canada.
and I'm kind of a big boxing fan, and I watched some of the
Andre
UFC.
Durrell's coming to see me tomorrow.
Who is?
Andre Durrell.
Oh, is he really? Yeah.
Top middleweights in the world.
Right. Yeah.
He's coming to see you tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. But I watched the mixed martial arts stuff, and 9 times out of 10, it ends up being a grappling thing, and I have to say I find that fairly boring. And I wrestled in high school.
Right.
But I kind of go like, well, they're on the ground. I guess I'll go get a snack.
Yeah. Well, when you learn a little bit about the grappling aspects, it's different than wrestling.
No, I know. There's a lot of jujitsu and stuff.
The
Yeah.
referees, I used to referee the UFC way back. The alternate fights. The referees are
Was this like in the early days when it would be like Royce Gracie versus like a 400-pound
because
guy?
What would happen was it was like that. They would compete against each other, and one guy would keep fighting until he became the ultimate champion.
Right.
It wasn't like just weight. There was no weight class anyway, and they would have an alternate ring that I would referee just in case, which always happens. Somebody got hurt from the main fights, then another guy would come in.
Yeah.
Did you often get into the fights yourselves?
No,
Yourself.
well, I got a lot of stories about that. I trained with a few of the fighters, but one of the stories was I'll try and make it as brief as possible, but one of the fighters was having an argument with one of the other fighters called Tank in
Tank Abbott.
Tank Abbott, yeah.
and
I was gonna be afraid there was 2 different guys named Tank. That would have scared me.
but what happened was there was always the stupid little things that would happen in the hotel because the hotel room my room might be here, or the fighter's room might be there, another fighter's room might be back there, but he might be fighting him the next night.
Right.
So if this guy like Tank would travel with a bunch of knuckleheads, they would harass the other guy,
Yeah.
and the guy would of course. I'm in the elevator after the guy the fights are over. I'm in the elevator with one of the fighters that was having out with Tank's boys. He steps out, the guy says something to him, cracks him, and they all start beating him up. And I hold Tank because Tank is the Tank.
Yeah.
And I say, okay, these little guys, they're going to do damage, but this guy might kill him.
Yeah.
So I scream out to the rest of the guys, they're trying to kill Pat. So everybody helped get them off.
Now,
I don't know how we got into that.
I don't know. Isn't the philosophy of many of the martial arts is the idea that you become strong enough so you don't have to fight. It's
Right,
like
but that was
it's
the
a
whole point
peaceful
about the
thing.
spiritual side.
Yeah,
But,
exactly.
I know what it was. It was the referee. When you referee, you're told when nothing is really happening on the ground, you pick them up.
Right. Yeah. You
make them get
back on
now you did Kitty Pryde and Wolverine.
Sure.
How much did you have to learn about Japanese culture and that whole world? in
Honestly,
order to-
not that much. I'm.
You guys winged it.
Well, Claremont had an interest in it, and he,
Yeah.
it was his storyline, his plot and stuff, and so all the stuff that was going on in there with the the guy who used to be Wolverine's sort of mentor, who is now mentoring Kitty, but he was really not a good guy, and trying to win her over and brainwash her to the point where she was working for him sort of voluntarily. It was all Chris's stuff. So I just. Like a lot of people. Look, I like martial arts movies. I remember the one that kind of grabbed me. It was an old one, Five Fingers of Death. You remember that one?
One of the earliest.
Yeah, it was one of the early ones, and one of the first ones that was a big success here, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
And I saw it on Times Square when Times Square was.
Yeah, I used to hang out there. That's where I got into it.
It was a double feature with the Wild Bunch.
$2 or $3
Yeah,
a
yeah,
year.
but it was a double feature with Peckinpah's Wild Bunch movie. So and the audience is going nuts. They introduced the samurai, the bad guy samurai in the because it's a Chinese movie, and the Japanese are always the villains because they invaded so many times. And so the samurai pulls out his sword, and somebody in the audience goes, "He's got a knife," and I'm going like, okay, But the audience was into it. They were just as active as the guys on the
Unless they grew
screen.
up or been around in Times Square at that time in the 80s, could I paint the picture for you for that area?
Well, I remember
for the
showing
shithole.
up coming into the movie theater when you were
Yeah.
trying to enjoy yourself.
Well, that all came from, that scene in The Last Dragon came from a reality that in Times Square in the 80s, it was the worst place on earth.
Yeah,
I mean, it was like...
It still is, but in a completely different way.
Yeah, but they had, it was like...
It got rid of the prostitutes.
Not if you
and
love
became
not
one.
if you love Disney.
Yeah, and
But there
M&M
was
stores.
a culture inside the theater. I was only 14. I would leave high school right after school and run to go see these three-picture films
Yeah.
features, and they were sticky floor, and it was just nasty. And all the homeless guys go there because they get to watch a movie
Yeah.
for $2.
You hoped it was gum.
Air
But,
conditioning.
but they had the best martial arts movies.
Yeah.
And there was a culture, so these cats would be like, yo, he's got a knife. Or they would know every one of these Chinese guys in these kung fu movies because the same Chinese guy would be in the next movie, but this time he had a beard on.
Yeah.
And he was the bad guy. With the previous movie, he was the good guy in the Heroes.
Yeah.
They said, oh yeah, that's him, Ching Wu. Everybody was Ching Wu.
So you just learned the martial arts to go see the movies.
Well, that was part of the whole thing.
That was the thing that I mean, I grew up on Last Dragon.
Yeah.
I love it. One of the things that I do love about it, it is in many ways a superhero movie.
Right.
And it's like, it's just a bully. He's just fighting bullies. He doesn't kill them. I mean, I don't think.
No,
And he uses, I mean, so I guess that when you were talking before, like he uses his powers for good. These guys are jerks. And then he just beats them up.
Well, it was deeper than that. In that it was everything. If you
Because
really
he didn't want to, too. He was reluctant.
If you,
Yeah.
if you look at the whole, if you look at the whole thing, is that everything happening outside of him was coming down on him all the time. And like I was saying, martial arts about courage. His master was always saying, "Inside you." It's just like in Rocky. Come on, Rocky. You know, inside of everybody, you're gonna, in your life, you're gonna face something that you're gonna back away from, and you hope, if it's not you telling yourself, somebody else is coming in your corner to give you the inspiration to get off your butt and do it. And that's what it was all. There's all kinds of bullies around him, and he remembered his master said he's a master. He's a man inside, and he never believed he was a master. He thought Bruce Lee your whole body had to glow. You had to be some guru floating in the air to really face the challenge. But he didn't have to be that. He could just be him and actually overcome all these things and win. So that's what was the brilliance of it, is that inside every human being, you have that ability, but you just have to know it's there, and you're just gonna, boom.
If you're fit and athletic, I don't think I could be the man. I'm not even the master of my own domain.
You don't feel you have a glow?
Yeah,
I
well,
wanted,
All around his beard right now, look at it.
I wanted to talk to you about this. You wrote two of my favorite Spider-Man stories, Tangled Web number 10 with phenomenal art and Spider-Man Reign. And they're two very different. In one, he inspires like kids. It's mostly through the kids' perspective. And in the other, it's probably the darkest, it's like a dark future alternate Spider-Man. Is that what fascinates you about the character, that you can put him in all these different things and it still works?
Yeah, there's some characters I think like Batman or Spider-Man that just are so strongly defined that they can survive in any situation. And my tastes are towards the very dark or the very light. I'm very seldom in the middle. So like my Iron Fist comic book is probably the bleakest comic book you could buy right now on stands.
Oh, yeah.
Full of
Just based
death
on
and
how you
remorse
explain that origin.
Well, that's just the origin. I mean,
but it's amazing.
the funny thing about Iron Fist is in the past few years, he's kind of become like a goofy Spider-Man type character, and I just took him straight back to the craziest, darkest origin known to man because it was just so much more interesting for me. But I also love like really light things. So yeah, Spider-Man is a fun character to push into each corner, And I think as an artist, it's your job to push. It's your job to push, make people uncomfortable and push things.
Right.
You don't want to be bland,
Well, that's
I don't
true.
know. The funny thing about I really see a parallel though between martial arts and the visual arts because I think it's a singular journey. There's not like Kung Fu is not a team sport, as how I say it. It's the journey of enlightenment. It's the journey of like the pursuit of your full potential, and one is through physical expressions, and visual arts at its best is through the artistic expressions. And it's both like you learn from masters, but you have to at the end of the day become your own master.
Right,
I see a very parallel between the two.
One of the best things I ever heard was when you stop looking for help and just get serious, that's when things happen.
Yeah. Well, also, I fully think like I hate groupthink. I hate the idea of it. I don't think it's true. Like, there's this Pixar book that came out. One of the guys at Pixar wrote this whole philosophy behind groupthink, and like, well, every artist gets lost, and so it's our job to help them find their way. And I'm like, man, let me tell you, you're supposed to get lost, both in martial arts, in visual arts, any kind of human experience. It's your job to get lost, and then it's your job to find your own way out. And if
Kick the bird out.
yeah, man. And if someone's like trying to solve your problems for you, that's not art. That's like something else, you know. But I see a total parallel between the two.
Go see Lightning Source, the Lupian Wolf and Cub. You know, the Shogun's Assassin series.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Those are.
Yeah, those are cool.
Samurai
That's the one
series.
where he's got the kid in the
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of it.
weapon,
God.
stroller.
Yes, brilliant.
I've seen a couple of those. They're awesome. Yeah.
Al, let me ask you this, as someone who's been in comics so long, what do you think is the best change in the industry and the worst change from when you started to now?
That's a good question. I mean, I like the high quality stuff. You know, they've got great paper, great printing, great coloring and color seps. You know, I mean, because everything's they do the computer coloring now. But at the same time, you know, I don't read too many comics these days. For one thing, they're so
Do your
expensive.
children?
Huh?
Do your children?
My children? Do I have children? What do
You said you had.
I do have children. No,
Yeah.
I have. Well, here, case in point, my youngest is the only one who has any interest in comics, and I gave him the old Marvel Masterworks reprints, you know, the hardcover
Yeah.
things. So he read all the comics that I read that got me really sucked into Marvel comics. You know, all the early FFs and Spider-Mans and Thors and even the X-Men, everything. You know, and he loved them. And he read, you know, he was reading them every night before he go to bed. He was reading as many as he could cram in. And he finally got through all of them, and he said, you know, what else have you got that I can read? And I gave him some X-Men reprints from the, I don't know, 80s or 90s. And he took it upstairs, and he came back down 5 minutes later. He says, I don't like this. It's not interesting. It's too complicated. And he gave it back to me. And it was the stuff that, of course, is the popular X-Men, you know, the very dense, maybe overwritten, and, you know, impossible to follow if you hadn't been reading it, you know, since issue 1. And I think that's a drawback. I think there's not enough keeping people, you know, up to date with the exposition. You know, like you have to really, you know what's going on to follow the storyline often. There are exceptions. And I also, I read an issue of something, you know, recently. I find a lot of them, I know that they, you know, the idea is eventually they're going to repackage them as a trade paperback or a graphic novel or something. So the story, instead of having a story in issue, they have a story in 24 issues, and it reads that way. When you read the individual issues, nothing happens, you know. And over the course of 24 issues, something finally does happen, but it's a real slow slog. And I read some. You know, somebody sent me like one of these, you know, cover blanks.
Yeah.
And I guess it was maybe an X-Men issue of some kind. And literally, there were a bunch of X-Men scattered all over the globe, and a group of them, it was beautifully drawn, but a bunch of them were standing like on a mountainside or something, and some of them were somewhere. And the whole issue, all they did was talk. And the dialogue was sort of interesting, but I didn't know what the storyline was about. They were talking about what they had to do to resolve whatever.
It was C-SPAN with mutants.
They were just chatting away, and I said,
It was
man,
the last 3 Star Wars movies.
this is kids. This is not your father's comic books. You know, I remember the Lee and Kirby stuff where, you know, they'd move the plot along. There'd be plenty of action. They'd be talking or whatever. They'd all have their troubles that they'd be going over in their heads. But man, oh man, nothing. These people did not move. They literally stood there. This was an action comic book. You know, I said no.
Now, Brad, as an artist, have you been?
Do I like to stand people on a mountain for 22 pages talking?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that interest you?
Not much.
Well, you mentioned earlier like how things have gotten darker. Has there ever been, you know, you're getting the script, you're about to draw an issue. Has there ever been something where you're like, I don't want to do this. This is too far. Like, kids might buy this.
Not likely these days.
I mean, I
don't think
even
kids afford
consider
them.
really.
Yeah, kids can't read them and they can't afford them, right?
I think I'm kind of desensitized to what I would like to be in a comic because it's probably just not in there. You know, I like comics from when I was making them. It's sort of a
Way back
constant-
when.
It's sort of a constant thing of like every day you'll get a script and you're not necessarily going to want to draw what's in there on a given day anyway, but I think sort of like the curse and the beauty of comics is like shut up and sit down and draw whatever it is and make it look real and make it exist and make somebody engaged by it. And that's kind of like what I think is great about comics. So even when I've, I tend towards, sort of like you were talking about with martial arts. I like something with, a heart and a point to it, and something, some air of positivity, even within like something that's dark. A reason why something got dark. But you kind of make what you're working on work for you, because you're trying to make it work for an audience, and you don't always get to say, these are work for hire comics, and you don't always get to dictate exactly what you're drawing. Even back when the stuff you didn't write, you just had to serve the writer's script, and I think.
Well, and depending on your relationship with the writer or the artist, depending, you could, we had a lot of give and take. We had a lot of discussion. I don't know. My impression is that Marvel is no longer working Marvel style. Do you do full scripts?
Very little.
Well, I'm writing my own scripts, so I don't even write scripts. I hand in lettered layouts because for me it's easier to communicate in a layout. Like I like to.
So you do what do you do? Thumbnails? You mean, or are you? You're not drawing the book.
I am also drawing.
Oh,
the
you
book,
are
yeah.
drawing. Okay,
Yeah.
my bad.
Yeah, which is unique in today's climate.
It's rare, yeah, but not
Didn't
unheard
used to-
of.
didn't
Why is that rare?
Look
now?
at Jim Starlin, still writing and drawing.
Yeah. When I was a big comic book fan, kid reader, in the '80s, it was very common, right? All my favorite guys were writer artists: Frank Miller, Jim Starlin, Howard Chaykin, whoever. It was a very common thing.
John Byrne.
John Byrne, yeah, John Byrne, of course.
Countryman,
Right, fellow Canadian.
Yeah.
And then it kind of went away. And I think there's two reasons. One is the artists got slow, and artists became superstars, and they got slow, and the writers picked up the slack. But also, there's a larger answer that writers have gained a lot of power because when Hollywood started optioning comic books, they only have to option the story and the underlying concept. They could be bothered less with the art. So in a weird way, writers have grasped onto this power that has been given to them as viewing comics as an intermediate towards a larger project.
Well, and also, a lot of, I don't know how much, but to a certain extent, these writers who do movies and TVs who grew up loving comic books are writing some of the comics nowadays. They get these high-profile writers to come in and write comics, and of course, they've been doing stuff that they do full script. And so there, the thing about Marvel style, there was more give and take. Sometimes the writer and the artist would discuss it, or sometimes they just, the writer would give a sort of looser plot line and the artist would flesh it out. And that, would go back to the writer and he'd go, oh, I did not see this coming, but that's interesting, So I think it's a lot more rigid now in that, if you're doing like the full script thing, the artist is just basically hired on to make illustrations out of it.
There's a small handful of guys that still write Marvel style,
Are
and it's
there?
kind of the writer's prerogative if they like it. But even then, I would say it's probably a little more complete than some of the stuff that you were used to. It'll be like a script without the dialogue. It'll be a full panel description.
When you worked on Guardians of the Galaxy, was that Marvel style?
Yeah. No, it wasn't. That was full script. I worked on some issues of Action Comics with Kurt Busiek that were Marvel style.
Well, when I worked on Guardians of the Galaxy, it was Marvel style. And it was the weirdest comic I ever, it was Steve Gerber, so.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to talk, and I taught Steve, how did you, where is this going? Do we know where this is going to, plot line's going to lead us? He goes,
Nope.
I have no idea. He said, it was all he could do to get it in on the deadline. In fact, it got to the point where he couldn't get it in on the deadline, and they brought in another writer, Roger Stern. But, Steve he would fly by the seat of his pants all the time. It was just, and he was throwing out the weirdest, wackiest, interesting ideas.
Well,
but man, it was not structured.
I was just talking to somebody about a couple years ago. Steve Englehart was here, who your West Coast Avengers run was some of my favorite stuff. And I remember I was on a panel with him, and then I talked to him forever afterwards, and I was kind of like geeking out on about West Coast Avengers. And we were just talking about sort of the difference in the industry now versus then. And he was like, when I was doing a lot of Marvel and DC work, an editor would call me up and they'd ask me if I wanted to be the writer on Captain America, and then Captain America was my thing, and I could, he wasn't sitting there explaining a year's worth of plots with an editor and having a bunch of brand managers basically weigh in and tell him, well, we really like to keep Captain America like this, and our goal by the end of the year is to have him be here. He was like, I would write Captain America into a corner one month, and then the next month I'd write him out of that corner. And there's sort of a lost art there, because comics were one of the only, other than maybe like serialized soap operas on television, comics were one of the only mediums that could work in that type of storytelling, and now they don't anymore. Now they're movies that are chopped up into issues. You know, they're,
Yeah.
and it's kind of sad.
Do you
that's
watch
all.
the new superhero movies?
You know, yes and no. I've been so bored with some of these films that I'll be honest with you, you know.
From an action perspective, from a story perspective?
Yeah, I mean, be honest with you, I love the Batman series. The last one I despised. I thought
Yeah.
it was junk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one missed somehow. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Just the idea of Batman ending up in a French diner eating baguettes is the saddest like fate for Batman. Like he's supposed to like die in an alley at the age of 77.
Right, you know?
But him and
We've
like,
all gone to lame places for someone we're dating.
yeah.
Catwoman dragged him there.
Just him go, I'll have the escargot. Like there's just
Bruce,
something.
I want a baguette, and I want it this morning.
It basically, he was Pepe Le Pew. It was in France. He was chasing a cat who didn't want him at first, and then there you go. I mean, the thing too is like, how do you like? One of the big things to me in the superhero movies that I don't like is most of the fight scenes seem the same. It's a lot of stunts and CGI and all that, but like, but they're so homogenous. Like I've noticed this. Almost every fight scene in a superhero movie lasts under 3 minutes. Like the big fight at the end, like they build up Captain America and Red Skull and the first Captain America, and you're waiting for this. And in the comics, he's not even his physical equal, but in this, he also has the serum. You're like, this is gonna be great. A minute and a half later, he's gone.
Yeah.
Like
Weren't you the one that was talking about how there's always a woman scissor kicking?
there is always a woman.
always a woman that
Every
scissor
woman in a
kicks.
comic book movie does the same hurricanrana, like head scissor takedown.
Wraps around his neck. Yeah.
How do you choreo, like, what would be like the ideal fight scene? Like let's say,
If we're sitting at this table, right,
yeah,
you want to have.
How would you kill all of us?
yeah.
Yeah, so it's always what I find is it's best to have it relate to the story. So and always have intrigue and suspense and surprise is the best because in real fighting you're the best fighter if you can surprise the other guy. So that's what's so great about that is the audience doesn't know what's going to happen, right? That's what's great about great storytelling.
I haven't seen one fight in a superhero movie
Right.
that matches your fight with Shonuff, the Shogun of Harlem. Because it's well built. There's like this music. He beats the crap out of you. Then you get your comeback and you beat the crap out of him. How long? It's about at least 6-7 minutes, right? Like it's epic.
Yeah.
You knock him in water at the end, so he could have drowned.
It wasn't so just like Raid. They had more physical movements and all that other
I will say
But
the
then you have all
final.
that character build-up, like the last
The
fight.
final fight in the
Yeah.
first raid is one of the most amazing things.
Yeah,
They
the
fight
first
this little guy, and they put a piece of glass in his neck, and that just makes him stronger. But it's like, but why aren't like why? Is
So
it,
he was fighting. He was fighting through the pain. Is that what
yeah.
you're saying?
And it's incredible.
No, pain of glass.
They have lost
Oh,
the
please.
art of
Help me with my puns.
there has been a loss and a respect for the art of fights.
Yeah.
Just like gunfights in the West.
I just don't know why they're so short.
It's funny because I mentioned Five Fingers of Death, and one of the things I liked about the movie at the time was that they introduced this character who's studying martial arts, but he's not real good at it yet. And then along the way, you keep meeting different guys who are at higher and higher levels, and you go, well, here's a guy. Oh, nobody's going to beat him. And then the guy who does the headbutting, that's his main move is he headbutts guys into submission. And he said, oh, well, he's even better than this guy. And then finally, this guy comes all the way around so that he's the best of all of them. And I like that kind of having to work your way through the different levels to get to the peak, as opposed to like the Steven Seagal movies. I've watched a number of his movies, not all of them, but the thing I always bothered me about his movies was nobody he fought ever gave him any kind of a fight. It was always like too easy. He would just like tear him apart. That was the end.
Yeah, when you think of Bruce Lee, it was almost the same way with Bruce Lee, right?
To a degree, yeah, it's true.
Maybe.
Jackie Chan even worse because they were getting beaten by mops. and like buckets and stuff. Like
Well, yeah, that, but
They're not
that
even
was
getting
playing,
punched.
that was playing for comedy.
they're
Yeah.
mopped to death. Like
Yeah.
that's gotta be so sad when they go to the doctor. Like does mops in my premium? Is this covered?
Yeah.
I do want to know that this is Brad. I do read Brad's Facebook, and I did want to bring this up. You saw
My
he follows
Facebook is
me
that
too. We stalk each
obnoxious.
other.
Follows me too much.
Stalker, Texas Ranger, yeah, Walker Stalker. That's your fans, and Steve Gerber should have had Gerber babies, and John Byrne could have burn victims. But but I was wondering, like, you saw X-Men: Days of Future Past, and there's a part of it that you didn't like, and that's for no reason. And I agree with you on this. Did you see Days of Future Past?
No.
It's not
Did
that I
you?
didn't
I haven't
like.
seen it yet. I don't know.
Um,
You're gonna spoil this movie too. Huh?
I wait for everything on cable, so I'm way behind the times. You know.
I have
well,
a
they
I-
probably will cut this out of cable.
I have a 9-month-old
Oh,
baby,
really?
so
I
we've
doubt
been
it.
not going to movies lately.
Yeah. Well,
It's a bare ass.
You see Wolverine.
It's a bare ass.
Yeah. In a PG-13 action movie, does that need to happen? Does there need to
All
be
right.
profanity
Let me-
and nudity?
Well, let me preface my gripe. I didn't
Preface
really
your
care.
gripe, yes.
I'm not uptight about seeing a bare ass, and I get that they sexualize
You're
women
not
in the
embarrassed.
other.
Is that what you're saying?
Boom. I get that, you could make the argument that they'd sexualized women in the movies as well. On and on and on. And I don't necessarily think that that's the best idea. My point was there was no reason for it in the scene except that they wanted to show the bare ass. And it's a movie where people know that kids are going, so to go out of your way to put in a bare ass and to, it was like they were trying to shoehorn in the word shit. There was just a couple instances where they were just clearly trying to make this less for kids to make people think it was cooler, which seems kind of like if you just tell a good story and do it well, it's going to be cool. It almost seems like you don't believe in your material enough.
I couldn't, like,
Yeah,
and,
maybe.
I know you have kids, and
I mean, it sounds like it was pretty
you have
gratuitous.
a son, but like,
It was
Yeah.
I
100%
couldn't-
gratuitous, yeah.
I couldn't imagine being 10 and watching some of these new movies because they're all 2.5 hours long. Like,
Well, yeah, there's plenty of popcorn to be consumed there, I guess. But
Yeah.
The Wall. How long was that?
huh?
How long was The Wall?
Pink Floyd, The Wall. I think it was about like 2 hours.
Oh, okay. Was it 2.5? Okay.
It might have been.
I was lost in it. I was when I was a
Oh,
kid,
yeah?
I was lost in it. I loved it.
Yeah,
I've never watched that movie. No.
But I remember like Disney movies were like 75 minutes,
Yeah.
and then even Pixar movies are like 100 minutes. But now every single
Why is
comic book movie
Oh, I mean,
is
didn't people say that
2.5
new
hours.
Transformers is like 3 hours?
I know they're
It's
all.
it's the fourth one.
I don't know why. It's interesting to me,
Back to that bare ass thing.
but I don't know how.
Let's
it
get
just
back to that
seems-
ass.
But I think it's connected in that it seems less for kids. It seems like if you're a parent and you take your kids to the movie with the attention, if a kid is like 8, or 9, and they have a short attention span, and they go see. First, it's 2.5 hours. Then, for no reason, they're saying like, "Don't be like in Man of Steel." It's like, "Don't be a dick, Clark." Like, why do you
Yeah,
need that
yeah.
in there?
The bare ass thing doesn't bother me because it's like kids see bare ass every day when they wake up when they see their parents' ass. It's the way it's portrayed. That's all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got, we're in America, they don't show the bare ass. In Europe, they showed it for
But-
but when they're trying to hide, that's when the kids think there's something up with that.
But my
Yeah.
thing wasn't so much about the ass itself. It was that the ass was there.
No, I got
It's
you.
what the ass
The
says
ass
about
was
America.
there to
Yeah.
drive
Is
home
this
the fact that
Wolverine's
Wolverine
ass?
just slept
Yeah.
with
Is
this
that the
woman,
ass we're talking about?
which was very clear in the scene
In
anyway.
his defense, that's like 200-year-old ass. That's like really old Canadian bacon ass. It's not right, I just like to me like
And
I
yet
do
still
wonder,
not saggy, apparently.
Yeah.
So good for him.
I do wonder who the audience because even like I love comic books and I love a lot of these movies.
Yeah.
But like I saw the newest Spider-Man, and you could have cut 45 minutes from that thing
Yeah. Yeah.
easily. And then it ends with him fighting the Rhino, and that's when they cut the movie.
I kept watching that movie and I was like,
I haven't seen that movie
Paul
yet.
Giamatti's going to
They
show up
spoiled
still?
another movie. God.
You didn't know.
Can you spoil the joys of having a child? Because I haven't seen that
There are
movie.
little joys in having a child. It's lots of work and little sleep.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the joys. They're gonna come. I just know
You
it.
didn't have to see Wolverine's ass.
Let me, Brad. Let's talk about this. Your fascination with this ass shot. It really affected
Look,
you. It
Mike
really
brought
did
this up.
something to you.
I did bring it up.
In a way that
It
I
did have
think-
like over 100 comments. It was
The
amazing.
ass
like,
was an example of what I think Mike touched on, which is more that,
Oh, what? Good.
which I think was more just there seems to be a nobody's sure who these movies are for anymore. You know, they're clearly being made for and marketed to adults, but they don't want to lose possible child viewers either. So, you know, you're
Yeah, I mean, don't you think they're really like teenagers and young adults more than anything?
no, I think that they're grown-ups. I think they're 30 and 40-year-old men, but they don't want to miss out on that audience if it's possibly there. So they're trying to serve several audiences, which are very have very different needs. And
I mean, clearly they're appealing to a lot of people because the Marvel movies are making billions of dollars here and overseas. So they've hit some target that they were aiming
Right.
for.
There's no competition. You know what I mean? No real competition to really. So people say, I'm gonna go to this movie because that's the movie I'm gonna go to.
Yeah. But you know what? A lot of it also is the hype involved. You know, that's everybody know. You know, if the Avengers made how many billions now worldwide? 3.
yeah.
You know, so everybody says, "Wow, that Avengers movie." You know,
it would have made 4 with some ass in it.
Huh?
It would have made 4 with some ass in it.
Could be.
You know what the thing is too, like
But you know, the point being that you know there's so much word of mouth ahead of time, and there's so much hype, and people just the movies are not in theaters for very long at all anymore.
no.
You know, it used to be you'd get a hit movie, it would run the whole summer, and you
Or
know
back in
people
the
would go
day
to
they
see
would
it
go
8
on
times.
tour, right?
There's no
Yeah.
on demand and all this. It's all there just for promo to go on demand and all that.
Yeah. So they have some kind of killer opening weekend box office, and then the next weekend it's half as much as the previous week, and within 6 weeks at tops it's gone. But then they're busy. They're doing the DVD sales or the cable buys or whatever it is, pay-per-view buys. So they apparently they've got it down to a science now, and these things I think people say, oh, we got to go see the new Marvel movie because it's the thing to see. So.
Great, guys. We're gonna wrap it up. Is there anything that you guys would like to plug or promote?
One last thing is it's been 30 years since we shot The Last Dragon,
And he's still bleeding out.
Yeah.
Boom.
and
Thanks.
I was saying about
I got you. I got
going to Times Square. Well, it's going to be screened in Times Square, in the new Times Square, the new gory version of Times Square,
Yeah.
in the AMC Theater on November 8th.
I will be there.
Cast will be there. It's part of the Independent Action Festival that Demetrius Angelo did, and it's doing the 7th and 8th. Scott Adkins will be there. Daniel Bernhardt from Matrix. The old guys, Richard Roundtree and Fred the Hammer Wilson, original gangsters. There's going to be a bunch
Shaft,
of characters
yeah.
there. Yeah, there's going to be a bunch of characters there, and it's November 8th, 7th, and 8th.
Oh, cool.
Brad, you got anything to plug, or
I would-
all these guys will be here the whole weekend?
I would normally plug my comic book I'm drawing, but I'm not going to make any royalties off it anymore anyway, so fuck it. Feel free to illegally download Green Lantern New Guardians and enjoy.
Wait, why is that? Is the sales are too low, or they're no longer paying royalties?
No, DC changed their royalty plan.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's a whole
I'm out
other.
of the loop. What can
Now
I
it's
tell
based.
ya?
It's going to be based on net profits, just like movies.
a whole
Oh,
other
net
podcast.
profits. So there will be no profits. I get it. Hollywood accounting, right?
Is there anything you'd like to plug or plugs you'd like to pull? Al?
Yeah, I got nothing.
Okay.
I'm if anybody anybody wants to hire an inker, let me know.
You got it.
Guys, pass it along.
Stop by Al's
And,
table and buy some artwork.
Buy some artwork. And I've got Iron Fist, The Living Weapon, 4th issue just came out 2 days ago. It is the craziest comic book on the stands right now. And then I directed a movie that comes to theaters August 1st called Cabin Fever Patient Zero. It's
Wait,
actually
what?
on
Say the title again slowly, please.
Cabin Fever Patient Zero. Starring
Cabin Fever Patient
Sean
Zero.
Astin from the Goonies.
Oh, is this a
and
sequel? That's a sequel, yeah? Cabin Fever?
It's like not quite. It's not technically a sequel.
There was a Cabin Fever.
There was a 1 and a 2, and this
Okay.
exists in the world,
But
but it's
this
a
is its own mythos
standalone,
and, yeah.
standalone tale. but it's also on premium VOD right now.
Oh,
All right,
All
great,
right.
guys. Give it up for Taimak, Brad Walker, Al Milgrom, and Kaare Andrews. Thank you
right.
so much, guys.
that's Kaare.
Thanks, Mike.
Oh yeah, I like that. I like that.
Bob, thank you.
Thank you.